Today on the show, we're talking about binge watching, episode after episode after episode. When do we start doing this? Did TV shows just get better, or did the advent of watching TV at home start our addiction? And what do the scientists have to say? And as always, you can listen to the Behind the Screen podcast on Spotify. Hello and welcome back to the Behind the Screen podcast. I'm joined today by my good friend and Toronto filmmaker Connor Reeves again. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Gorian?
I'm good, and I'm pumped to talk about our new topic today, binge watching. And before we start off, I just want to pepper you with a bunch of facts that are going to kind of blow your mind about how many people actually binge watch things.
Yeah, I'm all ears.
All right, here we go. So 88% of US adults admitted they have lost sleep due to staying up late to watch multiple episodes of TV or streaming series. 88% have lost sleep.
I mean,
remember when we looked up to adults as kids and we were like, oh yeah, they know it. They know what's going on. Why are they watching Black Mirror until 4 a.m. and then being my dentist at 7 a.m.?
Man, Wednesday nights I used to stay up to watch Lost. That was past my bedtime, but guess what? Sometimes there's a 2-hour special, and I had to know.
So this number, 88% of all US adults admitted to binging, jumps to 95% when you're looking at 18 to 44-year-olds.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Who has a bedtime anymore?
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to be like, I guess I can push it till 3 a.m. Especially now. It's like, no one's going out or doing anything. Like,
yeah, the new bedtime's like super pushed.
It's like Friday night, baby. Let's watch every episode of Dark.
38% of people polled said they watch 1 to 3 hours of TV at a time.
Yeah, that's fair.
You're never going to sit down and watch, even when I watch Jeopardy, I will watch 5 episodes of Jeopardy in a row and catch up for the entire week in a sitting.
It's called nerdcore hip-hop. It's
nerdcore
hip-hop, yes. People who identify as nerdy, rapping about the things they love, video games, science fiction.
Losers, in other words.
Well,
half hours are worse.
Yeah.
It's like you're watching the whole thing.
7.1% of men reported spending between 5 and 7 hours in one sitting, and 2% doing more than 10 hours.
Yeah, that's whack.
I'm that 2%.
I am the 2%.
Please, the closest I'll ever get to being in the 1% is the 2% of watchers.
I'm going to take you to a meeting if you're not careful.
I'm watching something right now, actually.
Just put that laptop away.
I need to watch Jericho, okay?
Started Band of Brothers last night.
It seems that the Germans are bad. Very bad. Frank, this guy's reading an article over here that says the Germans are bad.
Is it good?
The color correction is awful.
Oh God!
It's like
no wonder you can't binge things.
It's like they bleached the negative.
Daily time spent watching TV per capita in the US is 168 minutes. That's about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's not that bad.
Plus, that's probably 2 hours of the Weather Network, to be honest.
Yeah, which will melt your brain even more.
I always thought that if they ever polled my household, my mom leaves the Food Network on 23 hours a day. Like, there's never a moment when I walk in our house and there's not the Food Network on in the living room, on in the background. So I feel like families like mine skew the results drastically because they'll be like, this family watches 23 hours of Food Network every day.
My family's like, oh, come to town, like we'll have a visit. And then they're just watching like House Hunters International. And it's like, I can't be in the room while you're watching this. Like, this hurts the deep animal part of my brain.
I worked on an HGTV show once where we were going through garages looking for prize loot to, sell at a garage sale the next day. And I swear to God, the woman was like, do this one more time. And that we had to walk it. Oh my God, would you look at that? A brand, let's do it one more time, actually.
Wait.
Yeah.
You were on a reality TV garage sale show?
And I never even watched it when it came out.
You don't have a hard copy? Are you kidding me? You gotta use that in your reel.
And when a new show drops on Netflix, we see a huge number in viewership just, jump through the roof. And 76% of people...
They call that a spike in the biz.
Yeah. 76% of people ages 18 to 29 stayed up all night to watch a show. 51% watched a new season within 24 hours. 45% canceled social plans to watch a show. And 42% of people watched a show at work.
Watching a show at work is not enjoyable.
No, I don't think you ever watched someone watching a TV show on the subway on their phone?
Yeah.
How are you taking in anything right now? My
Like,
goodness.
I think like those people just like really need to tune out. Like they're just so misanthropic. They can't deal with their fellow man for 10 minutes.
When I see those people, I usually kind of peer over the shoulder to kind of like get a glimpse of what they're watching. You know what it is like 9 times out of 10? The Office. That's all they're watching.
Da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da.
Binge watching is a bit hard to really comprehend just because, again, with so many of these topics, there's a bazillion different ways you can cover it. So I figure let's go back in time a little bit and talk about a brief history about binge watching.
I know I've binged my fair share on VHS.
Binging was invented as a means to rewatch things. And again, you couldn't really binge things until the advent of VHS. I mean, there were things to watch, but no means to watch it all collectively. You had shows during the early 2000s like Sopranos and 24 that began to be released, and people kind of had this craving to watch the whole seasons in one sitting because they usually missed them catching up every week on TV. And do we think that it was the advent of overarching plots and dramas that incentivized binge watching? Or was it the fact that it just became so much easier to binge watch with the release of things like DVDs and VHSs kind of at the same time?
Yeah, I think like my first binge watching experience, it wasn't like a catch up or anything.
Yeah.
I'd seen Lost all the way through every episode live. And then freshman year at college, my one friend was like, oh, I've never seen it. And I'm like, okay, like let's get season 1 on DVD and let's get into it.
One after the other.
It's 22 episodes long.
Yeah, it's a lot of
22,
episodes.
like almost like 40, like what's a TV hour?
45 minutes,
45 minutes? Ridiculous. And yeah, it's basically a soap opera with like a few explosions if you're lucky.
And Lost really was one of those first shows that when the later seasons started coming out, everyone was talking about how you had to watch it while it was on the air. Everyone wanted to watch that finale. I remember, going to someone's house as a kid and like watching the finale. But getting there, I had to find the first 4 or 5 seasons and watch them nonstop over the course of like a month and a half to catch up in time.
And 6 seasons doesn't seem like a lot, but when it's 22 episodes, you never get 22 episode seasons anymore.
No
because,
more.
I don't know, modern TV, they know how to cut the fat.
10 to 13 episodes. We keep it nice and prime. Sometimes you only get like 9. Sometimes you get those like
13,
uneven.
13's too many.
Yeah.
8 or 9 is the perfect binge amount. If you watch 8 hours of television over a day, 2 days, a weekend, my brain will still be intact. But if I'm like 13 episodes in a day and a weekend, too much.
And the funny thing too about Lost is that it is really hard to go back and binge shows that were edited with commercials in mind.
Yeah.
Because there's so many moments that could have just been fixed with like a little bit of editing and made the whole episode way faster. But there's so many like fade out to blacks and moments that you just know they wrote, all right, we go to the commercial, we come back from the break, and now they're trying to open up the hatch now or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like post-commercial rehashing of what happened before. It's kind of like almost TV for idiots, because it's like, oh, I went to get a snack. I don't remember what happened before the commercial. We really got to hammer it home that this is what went on, that they're about to open this door. So there's always a little bit of overlap, and it's just like exhausting to watch.
Brian
Can I help you, sir?
is looking for a gift for his aunt.
I'm looking for a gift for my aunt.
Well, you've come to the right place.
But has he come to the right place?
Well, you've come to the right place. This is, after all, a gift shop.
Yeah, you get the little catch up like 10 seconds after you just seen what's happened too. Yeah, the little catch ups. It just makes it a grueling process, and I do think that's one of the things where people experience a bit of the burnout from binging traditional TV shows like that. I mean, so many shows that came out, things like Sopranos and 24 were cut in a way that you can't really tell. Things like HBO shows, they didn't have any commercials at all, so they were perfect to binge, versus
For sure.
so many of these other shows where they had to fill in exactly 45-minute time slots. So many shows like Family Guy will do sketches that go on for like a minute and a half just to pad out the runtime and things like that. So again, like the things with like Netflix being able to binge something like House of Cards, that show dropped on one day, all 13 episodes, and you didn't have that problem of it felt like it wasn't meant to be all watched in one sitting,
Yeah, I was pretty sour when Netflix kind of started that whole binging trend, like dropping that many episodes at one time, just because for me, TV used to be waiting week to week to want to watch something. You're talking about it with your friends and you have something to look forward to. It's like a special event. Whereas like when you just drop that many episodes, no one, especially me, is not going to have the self-control to be like, I'm going to parse these out. Like, I'm going to watch only 2 episodes this week. Like, not going to happen.
Yeah, binge watching is basically a family-sized bag of chips where, like, realistically, I'm gonna have the whole thing in one sitting. Like, I don't think I've ever not finished a bag of chips in one sitting, much less like a TV show that I really like. And especially right now, we have all this free time. I've been non-stop binging so many of these shows, but so many of them happen to be these HBO shows where you don't notice the fact that it wasn't made for commercials, or sitcoms kind of like get a little bit grilling after a period of time of binging them over and over again.
No, and I think that's why TV is at like the caliber that it is now, because they aren't editing for time.
Yeah.
They can kind of have more freedom to do what they want to do, but they also have to keep people involved in the plot when it's happening for hours on end, whereas you only had to hook people for 45 minutes before, which is kind of like, you can string people along pretty good, and kind of have a lot of nothing scenes. Whereas now it's, people expect so much more engagement out of the characters, out of the plot, out of the world in the television show.
And taking it back to the 80s with the VHS tapes, I mean, everyone remembers as a kid, you're walking around thrift shops and what do you see? Just boxes and boxes of Star Trek VHS things. Yeah. And I think it's things like that where you see so many of these box sets. I mean, that must have been how Star Trek came to popularity back then. It was one of these only shows that you could watch. You know, what you had to, what do you want to rent for the weekend? Let's rent the box set of Star Trek and watch it all. Like, I've never seen it before. That seems way more, likely to me back then than, binge watching. I don't even know what else you would binge watch back then. Like,
I had a lot of Dragon Ball Z on VHS,
yes,
but
exactly.
Someone was just recording it and not really watching, so there was all the commercials. So you'd still have like the DVR problem of having to like skip through.
Exactly.
And if you watched it now, it's like 90s commercials.
Yeah.
It's over 9,000! What's my name?
Dunkachino! Dunkachino!
Do you remember what the first thing you would have binged would have been? Do you remember your first proper, you sat down and watched a good 4 or 5 hours of something and were like genuinely like into it the entire time?
The first notable binge that I had that I was like, wow, I need to finish this is the first season of Stranger Things.
Oh,
it's
yeah?
like 8 episodes, man. I was hooked in. And it's because it's like, it has this driving question where you're like, where's Will?
Yeah.
Like,
wait, it took you until Stranger Things to binge watch a show?
100%.
Really?
Yeah. Enjoy binge watching a show.
Right, because we were talking about before this, you're not the biggest binge watcher versus you're more into like the movies and like watching a ton of movies versus it's kind of hard to get you to sit down and watch a whole show if you know that.
Yeah, no, like someone will be like, oh man, you gotta watch Breaking Bad. It's the best thing I've ever seen.
You're goddamn right.
I turned Breaking Bad off mid-first season because it was
It's tough to impress you, I know.
too slow.
Yeah.
It's just too slow. Better Call Saul, turned it off.
Because it's too small! I don't care about it!
I made it to season 2, but it's like, oh man, how many times can he squabble with his brother?
I'm fuming over here right now because I will say one of my first binges was Breaking Bad. I mean, it was around the same time where Malcolm in the Middle was so popular and people were kind of starting to talk about it in high school. And I remember, I think it was on Netflix or like I bought the DVDs or something, but like I ended up watching like 3 seasons over a week and a half to catch up for the 4th season. I distinctly remember like birds chirping as I finished, season 2 and season 3 of Breaking Bad. And it kind of came at again, people boast that it's one of the greatest shows of all time. I think it's worth watching. I don't think it's the greatest, but again, I really enjoy it. And I think that was really where people started to just watch it all in one sitting. I mean, again, it was the fact that like it was available on Netflix and available on streaming and whatnot. I mean, the fact that DVDs were available and you could always buy your favorite TV show, but TV shows were so expensive back in the day too.
Yeah, I'm not spending
$60
for a season.
Oh my god. I spent like $80 on Freaks and Geeks to get like the DVDs because you could not watch that show anywhere. You couldn't find it online because it was all like ripped and all terrible looking. Like you had to go out and like buy these things. And when you bought them, it was kind of one of those weird things where you ever watch a show where you were binging it and you're kind of sad that you have to finish it at a certain point? Same thing with like a book or something where you're kind of like, oh, I'm trying to make it last, but I only have 2 more episodes of, Damon Lindelof's Watchmen. I need to finish it tonight.
Yeah. I think though, like when I can feel when I'm reaching that burnout point around like 4 episodes and I'm like, I would rather sleep on this, go in fresh tomorrow, I'm like, I'm not a big pusher because it's like, want to enjoy it. I want to go in. I want my brain not to be melting and my eyes not to be bloodshot. Like by the time I'm putting Visine in my eyes to like stop my eyeballs from aching.
You're one in a million. I can't believe that you're like the only person that's like not susceptible to binge watching an entire show.
No.
You just haven't seen the right. No, you do watch the right shows though. You didn't binge watch. Did you watch True Detective week to week, or did you watch it all in one go?
I watched it week to week, but you know how much I love that show.
You definitely binge watched it since then.
I've been binge watched it like at least a couple times, the first and second season. Season 3 is the only season I haven't repeat watched of.
I was
Detective.
just thinking about starting a repeat watch on that because I think it's like, I think it's fantastic. It's a great season.
Every season's excellent. I'll go on record and say that I love them all.
And the funny thing about your kind of first binge watching experience being Stranger Things, what's the number one most important thing about binge watching? Watching it in time so you don't get it spoiled for you. One of the number one caveats I have with binge watching a show that's released all on the same day is that I just have to avoid the internet for maybe 3 weeks while I'm trying to binge or trying to catch up, and you can't even talk to people most of the time. I remember when Stranger Things 2 came out, the second season, I was in the middle of nowhere in a cabin for a week and a half working. So I was just off Reddit. I was off the internet. I am terrified to click somewhere. Because again, so many headlines spoil things these days too, where that's one of the things where I remember binge watching the fourth season of Arrested Development when it came out on Netflix. I watched 5 hours in one night so I could talk to my friend at school about it because we loved the show so much, and we both knew. We were like, hey, should we watch one a day and talk about it at school? And he's like, I already watched 6 of them. And I'm like, oh, I gotta catch up now.
No, and it's like talking with coworkers, especially about Stranger Things, my coworker was like, oh, what episode are you on? And I realized I was behind, and so I'm like, oh, I need to go harder on this show. I need to watch 3 episodes tonight just so I have someone to talk to about it, because it is so engaging.
And the crazy thing too is that looking at shows that came out, again, I'll use Sopranos as an example. Sopranos episodes are so 1-to-1 to me. They're all so standout that you end up memorizing the names of the episodes.
He killed 16 Czechoslovakians. Guy was an interior decorator. His house looked like...
Versus with a Netflix show, it feels like it doesn't matter how many episodes you're in, because someone will always say, hey, how many episodes into Stranger Things are you? It doesn't matter what you say. You have to finish the entire thing before you can have a conversation. You can't be remember episode 4 where...
Stranger Things, though, was smart about it because it's in parts.
That's true.
They stopped. Well, they still have names, these episodes, but it's parts. It's almost like a mini series because people want to be oh, I'm on episode 8, I'm on episode 9, and you can very specifically pinpoint that because they know people are going to get lost after watching 6 hours of it.
That's true. And one of the coolest things about Stranger Things is when they do the new season reveals, they would usually just do the names of the episodes popping up on screen, and even that got me hyped because it would be the only one in town, or the boys are in trouble. And you're like, oh my God, these episode names sound so exciting.
And it's
but when they come out, they all kind of blend into one.
80s style graphic design. It'll suck you in.
It lasts forever. So let's move on to the science of binge watching.
Don't put me to sleep with these figures.
Not with my figures, baby. So what exactly constitutes binge watching? We were talking about this at the beginning where, again, there's a million different definitions for the same thing out there. And I was looking up for more researched things. So we have Dr. Sarah Erickson, who recently published a study on binge watching and how it immerses viewers and changes the way they engage with the media. They asked people they tested to define binge watching, and the general consensus is that 3 episodes of a show in a single seating can be counted as binge watching. Do we think that's fair? They said, because these usually these 45-minute, 30-minute shows. I think 3 episodes of something, it seems like a lot.
Yeah, if you're watching 2, that's not binging, but 3 is it's definitely a binge. 3 hours of television, who in their right mind is going to sit down and watch a 3-hour movie? I would, but you ask someone oh, I want to watch this 3-hour movie? They're like, no. But 3 hours of TV? Oh yeah, let's do it.
I still lie to people that I've seen The Irishman. Ask me if I've seen The Irishman.
Have you seen The Irishman?
Oh yeah, totally. Oh yeah, dude. It was so good, man. Oh.
Yo, I watched The Irishman in 5 parts over 2 weeks. I just kept watching parts of it, and I'm just
you can't even binge watch one movie in this.
No.
And again, too, we're seeing a lot of these directors they're asking them to please, can we cut this into 5 parts to put on Netflix?
Yeah.
It's a bit long. So back to the science, though. So why do we think that people genuinely binge watch something? Like, why do we think that someone sits down, and I'm sure there's a whole scope of people too. Like, I've had roommates that fall asleep with their laptop playing, and I could never be that person. Like, I'm the kind of person, like, the episode ends, or like, even if I'm feeling a little bit sleepy, pause the episode, I'll rewatch the episode because I don't remember really what happens in the first 13 minutes. What do you think about it binge watching that is just like, so good?
I mean, first of all, it's something to do. Like, I think like a lot
Boredom.
of people don't know how to kill their free time, and it's like, it's something that you can do that's doesn't take a lot of like brain power, and
You click a button.
Yeah, and it's also makes you feel like you're part of something bigger than just like sitting on your couch or lying in bed. It like makes you feel part of this world and feel like you're part of something important the more you watch.
There really is kind of no better feeling than, again, like being the first to see a movie on opening night. You got to go to the theater, you got to buy your ticket, you got to get in there, you got to sit down. Being the first person to watch, you know, the newest season of the Netflix show, you just sit down and hit play. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't wait. There's going to be twists. There's going to be reveals. There's going to be cameos. Like, it kind of seems like people are more excited about after the binge more than anything sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely like the cozy experience of like, I'm like so stoked to watch the show. I'm just like going to be like in my cocoon, like, and I'm just going to like get this done, which you don't get with a theater experience. Do I love going to opening night, being surrounded by people? I mean, not anymore. But I did, but it's just a different thing.
The last show that really hooked me like that, where I was really looking forward to like my little afternoon binge of it, was Disenchantment on Netflix.
The animated series.
Woo, I'm a good butcher.
This is a pet shop.
For some reason, that just clicked with me, and it was like the middle of November, and it was just like the perfect show to watch like 4 episodes in a row while we had like 6 feet of snow outside, you know?
Yeah.
But here's the scientific reasons why people binge watch things. You ready?
Lay 'em on me. Enlighten me, brother.
All right. So, according to Dr. Sarah Erickson's study, she found that it makes it easier for us to bond with people we see on the screen and to transport ourselves into that fictional world compared to if we watch the same show with breaks. And in her paper, she kind of had a couple hypotheses that were really interesting too, because again, not all of them are correct, but like they were really interesting to look at. She discusses parasocial relationships, which are perceived relationships with media figures that are functionally similar to interpersonal relationships. So we see this a ton in other media where, you know, mainly podcasts, it's always the meme where you listen to podcasts to pretend you have friends, you know? You listen to like Joe Rogan for 4 or 5 hours and you kind of start talking like you hang out with, oh yeah, Joe's on an all meat diet actually right now.
You feel like you're just a chair in the room.
Literally, and that's one of the things that people love about it. And the podcast, they're like 3 to 5 hours long, and you show up 3 to 4 times a week, and people develop bonds with these hosts. And what this doctor found was that when people were taken away from these binges, they genuinely missed the people. Like, they genuinely felt like there was someone in their like lives that was like missing from a part of them.
I mean, these characters are designed to be more interesting than the average Joe you run into on the street or your coworker in the next cubicle. Like,
exactly. But here's where we get a little bit into the weeds, because I think this parasocial relationship thing is really interesting because it's kind of a double-edged sword. So here's the way I see it. When you binge a show, you get really into those characters' minds. You really get into their everything, the thematics, like the reasons why they're doing things.
Yeah.
And people also binge watch movies, right? They call it marathoning, or again, watching the same movie over and over again. And I think we see a lot of these parasocial relationships more in those movies where when their favorite character dies, or when they're watching like a trailer for like a Star Wars movie, you just start crying or something. It feels like, you know, you don't know these fictional characters, right? Like, you know that they don't exist.
And that's why hangout movies like Dazed and Confused
exactly.
or Fast Times at Ridgemont High, those are movies that have crazy replayability because you want to hang out with these people and you want to just be around.
What am I thinking about? Baseball. Having a tail. Cereal.
Like, not a ton of plot going on. It's just, it's those characters that you want to be around.
Exactly. Plus, you know, if you watch Dazed and Confused a bunch, I guarantee you there's not a lot of memorabilia you can buy to like clutter up your apartment on like Marvel and Star Wars movies. Do you remember when the Marvel movies would be coming out? They would have like 17-hour marathons where they play every single Marvel movie in a row.
I notoriously hate all Marvel movies, so I
Can't name a single good thing about it.
I either wasn't aware or I didn't care.
You walked in front of the theater and like turned your nose up in the other
Last
direction.
Marvel movie I enjoyed was Iron Man.
Name a movie that absolutely no one has watched that's listening right now, so you can claim your hipster status.
Ooh, The Alchemist Cookbook.
Is that kosher to say? Is that like a...
Same director as Relaxer we talked about last time. Joel Potrikis shouts out.
The other almost certainly will turn out to be The Alchemist Cookbook.
Do we think films can be considered among binge watching, or is it marathoning in its own separate genre? Before the release of Marvel and Star Wars movies, there's always film marathons and things like Lord of the Rings. And we see similar marathons for different franchises, but usually like independent chains, when there's more of like an experience or an outing, you know, rather than watching every Harry Potter movie in a row. If binge watching TV can be considered the same runtime as a movie, how many movies constitutes a binge?
I still think it's 3.
Yeah.
3 is like, if you watch 2 movies, like that's an average Tuesday night for me, you know?
Yeah, I really do think it's the quantity of the things that you end up watching, where if you say, oh, I watched like 1 or 2 movies this weekend, oh, that's cool. If you were like, oh, I watched like 6 or 7 episodes of XYZ, I'd be like, you must really like that show. That's like a whole like 4 or 5 hours or something.
Yeah, but like I also know dudes that are like, they'll watch like 2-3 movies a night, and it's like, that's wild to me. Like, I'm not doing that every day. I think that's considered binging. Like, if you're watching like 2 or 3 movies a night, every night, I envy you.
We all have friends that, you know, they movie hop. They'll go see like 4 movies on Christmas Day or something like that. And again, even that seems just like the most agonizing thing to me.
It's different in a theater. In a theater, like after the second movie, I'm like, oh, I just want to get out of here.
The maximum movies I've ever seen in the theater is 2, you know?
Yeah, me too.
So Rowan University isolated 5 motivations for binge watching. So we have catching up, which, you know, makes sense.
Number 2, you're lonely as hell.
Number 3, you don't have good taste in any media. Catching up, relaxation. Yeah, I'd say so. I've definitely been relaxed watching, you know, 3 episodes of 30 Rock in a row.
I like to relax and watch Chernobyl.
Then you must have a sense of completion because you finished Chernobyl. You know the whole story now. We have cultural inclusion and improved viewing experience.
Cultural inclusion.
I think it's if you're binge watching something like Dark on Netflix. It's like a very popular show in a different language.
A cultural event.
I think, maybe it's more of that. Maybe it's less like legitimately culturally and more just, the culture of Stranger Things, the culture of Daredevil.
Right. Copy that.
All right, so let's just talk about the good and the bad of binge watching.
What about the ugly?
We'll save that for the very end. So let's talk about what we think is good about binge watching a show. And I'll start off with saying, you remember the plot and characters so much better. I was watching The Sopranos, and the amount of names in The Sopranos that pop up, let me tell you about just one season of characters. And you tell me if you'll be able to remember these episode to episode. You have Anthony Soprano, Jennifer Melfi, Anthony A.J. Soprano Jr., Christopher Moltisanti, John Saxon. You realize that at some point you've watched like 4 or 5 years of like hundreds of thousands of people's collective work in about, a week and a half.
Like millions of dollars.
So much money.
Billions of dollars.
Let me bring up the example of Better Call Saul. The new season came out recently, and this is a great example of binge watching because you get all the benefits of it. Now hear me out. The new season of Better Call Saul came out. The last season came out, I think, a year and a half ago. So I rewatched the first 3 seasons to catch up again.
Yeah.
And
you rewatched them.
I rewatched them. I binged them. I watched them, 3-4 episodes at a time, maybe sometimes like 5-6 episodes.
Okay.
You finished it very quickly. And I think it's great because you get the binge of watching it episode to episode. You really get to understand the characters. You really get to know the minutia of all of them during the binging of the older episodes. But then when you catch up to the newer episodes, you're back on that week-to-week schedule, which really draws it out for you. You had all of this great content before to binge and get excited for, and then you catch up and you get to go to the week-to-week. I think it's the best of both worlds, because you get to go online before the show comes out, and you get to talk spoilers, you get to talk theories, and then while the show's airing, these weekly threads that people have are like some of the funnest things. I mean, I don't know if you did it when True Detective was out, but like the week-to-week topic discussions were insane. Like people trying to piece together who.
I'm incredibly solitary when it comes to that sort of thing,
Really?
especially like detective shows.
Oh,
Like,
I need to
shut
hear.
your mouth. I don't want to know.
Really?
I don't want to know. I don't want to know your theory, especially if you think you're right.
So you were saying Community's a bad part of binging, and I'm saying Community's a good part of binging.
Yeah, binging's a very personal thing to me.
Yeah.
It's just straight to the pleasure centers in my brain. I don't care what anybody else is doing.
Okay, give me a benefit of binging then, since you're so hard to impress sometimes.
I think, as I mentioned before, it's really modified the way contemporary TV is structured.
The freedom it gives you to just.
There's so much less filler. Like,
Yeah.
I think even you watch Stranger Things season 1 versus season 2, and it's like they added episodes to season 2, and 2 of those episodes are just filler episodes. Like, you don't need them. Cut the fat.
That was the other thing too. Yeah, when you're watching week to week, you never really remembered filler episodes because that was the only content you were consuming for that week. So you were like, oh yeah, just an off week for them. Versus when you're binging it, you could be like, those last 2 episodes felt like it was a writer's strike or something really weird happened where you notice a lot of the inconsistencies suddenly much more. You realize, man, there hasn't been a fight scene in 4 to 5 episodes. Did they blow all their budget like on the last couple of ones?
Yeah, and that was definitely evident in like a lot of the action set pieces in Stranger Things.
Even things like
two.
Daredevil too, where like you have that one main, one-shotter, and then you kind of like, well, where'd the rest of the money go when you're
Well,
watching
it's like,
in one sitting?
the rest are just two-hander scenes, people talking in a one key light.
Shot, reverse shot.
But I think too, like you look at Damon Lindelof, like he cut down Watchmen. His latest series is 9 episodes, as opposed to like.
And could have used 2 more. It really could have used a few more.
I do not agree. It could have used 8. It could have been 8. Why you gotta make it 9? No, I appreciate shorter seasons. Like, just edit that down.
That's true.
Or don't write more episodes in the first place.
Wouldn't it be crazy to have a director's cut that was shorter than like a theatrical or like it's always like, oh, the director's cut, it's 14 more hours.
Director's cut is always worse.
Really?
In my opinion. It's, if I can't find just the theatrical cut, I'm probably not going to watch the movie.
I'm gonna put an asterisk for a future episode. Director's cuts, yay
everybody
or nay.
complained about, everyone was like, oh, the director's cut of the Watchmen movie
the ultimate
was
cut.
so much better. And it's like, no, you just don't understand the Minutemen. Like, that didn't need to be in there. Like, sorry you didn't read the graphic novel, you lame.
All right. Here, how about this though? How about the fact that you can make shows much more complicated now because they know that you're going to be attentive and patient while you're watching it. So you have complicated shows like Maniac on Netflix that I haven't watched but are notorious for being really tough to get into because they're
Maniac
just
was so good.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like they present so many grandiose ideas where I can't imagine watching a show that complicated among, 13. Sometimes they would, remember when they would do mid-season finales and you'd have to wait like a month and a half for your show to come back during like the Christmas months?
That's another one of my points, like why binge watching is so good, because man, you used to be left with a terrible cliffhanger. That'd be like, oh, it's June and I have to wait till September. Like, I would be pulling my hair out the summer months when I was off school. This is when I need entertainment. And you're just messing with me so hard.
The Walking Dead series was notorious for doing the most, gotcha mid-season finales ever where, oh my god, you'll never believe who's coming back as a zombie in 3 to 4 months, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Walking Dead was also notorious for filler. Like season 2,
all filler.
One location.
I think that was when I realized that binge watching wasn't a good thing all the time. I remember watching the first season week to week, ate it up, loved it, thought it was fantastic. Didn't watch the second season, so I thought, hey, maybe I'll try and catch up on it. And it was the weirdest Farmville season of just, you really saw how low the budget was compared to the fact they fired Frank Darabont after season 1. And as a viewer, especially if you're binging season 1 and 2 together, you instantly notice a lack of quality, which again, binge watching is great because it kind of helps you realize that so many of these shows are, again, reusing the same sets over and over again and just doing the same lazy plots versus when you binge watch a show and you're like, oh my God, what was that? 9 hours that flew by for me, Yeah.
I think too, like going back to the first season of True Detective, like all the same director, which is like super uncommon. Like even you watch
any TV show now will have, again, they'll direct Ozark. I know that he did the first 2 episodes, and then Bateman did like the last 2 episodes because they get so involved in the production they can't direct all the episodes.
Yeah, and it's super evident sometimes and kind of jarring. Like, especially I just finished The Leftovers a while ago, and it was like really like wildly different between episodes.
100%.
Which is, I don't know, it's not great for binging. Like, if you treat it as like a bingeable show, it's nice to have kind of that steady hand at the wheel being like, this is
consistency.
The tone.
Versus, again, when you have, again, there's an episode of The Sopranos where it's all a dream Tony has while he's sleeping and like in a coma, and it's so different than every other episode they have that when you are watching it, like, I can't imagine the people that week that were expecting, you know, Tony to whack some guy, and instead they have like the most realistic interpretation of a dream I've ever seen in media, where things just happen and switch instantaneously and aren't explained.
How much you weigh?
8 pounds.
Lost a lot of weight.
Swimming. The best exercise.
For 45 minutes, you know?
Yeah, really bothers me too when they just cut to like a B character and follow that character for the whole thing. That's the reason I stopped watching The Leftovers the first time, is when they cut to the priest Matthew, and he had his whole episode, and I'm just like, I don't want to be following this guy around.
I know.
Ended up really loving that character later on.
Well, what you find out about The Leftovers is that, those like individual character episodes, that's the great thing about Tom Perrotta too. When he writes these things, you get so attached to the first character you see by him, but then he keeps introducing all these other characters, you know?
Yeah.
Love it. Last thing I want to say about The Good, you save so much money. What can you watch if you pay, $9-10 for Netflix? A ton of stuff. Versus going to the movie theaters and, being the first one to watch, Tenet when it first comes out. Honestly, at this point, I'd rather watch, these Netflix shows and these Hulu shows and these Amazon shows that are premiering right away. You save so much money on entertainment because, again, you can watch 9 shows for the same price as one. The ticket to admission is insanely low.
It's also a quality thing for me though. Like, I think maybe 1 in 10 shows Netflix
nowadays.
1 in 10 Netflix shows is really actually worth binging or worth
nowadays
watching at all. They're really their executives have no idea what they're doing or what people want, which is nothing new in Hollywood. They're kind of just throwing their money around, and sometimes they get a hit. So you're paying whatever, $9-10 a month, but you're not getting pure quality, which can't be expected.
The best case scenario is if you're in that weird 90% range of people that like all the programming. If you're what the algorithm is recommending.
You think that's 90% of people?
I think when you go on Netflix and you watch whatever's the top thing, again, Tiger King, all this stuff, you see those top watch things and you go, yeah, I would never watch, again, 9 out of the 10 of these things. But again, I think their algorithm's fantastic at what other people want to watch. I understand that you and me don't want to watch Kissing Booth 2, but their algorithm says Kissing Booth 3!
Gorian, you're pigeonholing me here. I watched Kissing Booth 1. I loved it. I love rom-coms. And I'm going to watch the second one anytime. Any day now.
And the third. All right, let's talk about the bad of binging then, because there's plenty to say about it. You become antisocial. We all have that one friend who never shows up anywhere because they're always watching some new show on their laptop.
Where did the last 8 hours of my life go?
I swear, so many of these days, I'll just spend the entire day watching something. And again, as soon as you finish it, it kind of exits out of your mind and you're consuming something else, where you should probably have a week break between binge watching shows to really comprehend what's going on.
You know how good you could be at piano if you spent all that time practicing instead of watching TV?
Joe Rogan recently said that you should stop playing video games, because if you play video games every day for 3 years, you don't end up anywhere, versus if you do something like jujitsu every day for 3 years, you have a practical skill at the end of it.
I totally agree with that. And that's anytime I'm I'm going to start a new game in Red Dead or a new game in Outer Worlds, I'm no, I should do something practical, it's nice and it makes you feel good, but
hey, what's the number one thing you say to someone when you don't really have much to say? You watching anything good right now? What are you watching? There's always something that people are watching that they're really into. There's this Joan of Arc series that, there's always something that someone's very passionate about TV series wise that, they will binge and tell you about.
I think though, compared to sports, that's the minority.
Oh, we're not even going to touch sports today.
If you can talk about football,
no.
You can get along with anyone in any backwater bar in the world if you watch football.
What else is bad about binging? We have spoilers. One of the best parts about watching a show is jumping on the online discussion boards. You know, Lost, True Detective, they had huge discussions. And again, there's nothing worse than realizing you have to watch 13 episodes of a show before I can be like, hey, Connor, did you like... Oh, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me about that yet. I haven't seen it. Okay, well, how about... No, not that. No. And it's like, Connor, you gotta start watching these shows that come out because we have nothing to talk about.
And so many people are like, oh no, like first season, you just gotta get through it. I have to get through 13 hours of something?
Dude, the 100 gets really good by like hour 23, man.
I can't do it. It's just like flushing my time down the drain.
And then also we have the medical reasons, sleep deprivation, depression, tons of things basically just come from binging.
What are you talking about? I feel great.
I feel fantastic. Let me tell you about The Sopranos real quick.
That's not what I heard.
I can't stop and I won't stop binging because it makes the dopamine flow.
Well, luckily, you won't leave today with a hole in your heart because hopefully we filled that up with a whole bunch of binge-watching goodness. And thank you so much for being on the podcast this week, Connor. Where can people binge follow you?
They can find me at _Connor Reeves on Instagram or Connor_Reeves on Twitter. I could binge hang out with you all day, Gorian.
Ooh, I'm gonna cut that out. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Subscribe and leave a like, and don't forget to follow us on Spotify. What are you in the middle of binging right now? I'm about to start Dark, and I'm not stopping until I'm done.